Okay. Whew. I'm glad that you can be here today. What a beautiful day out. I was out early and it was cool enough that I was actually wearing a jacket. And then I got stuck inside here. I really should put these things together at night, but I have gotten to where at night I quit. I used to work into the night all the time, do all the desk work late at night or even overnight. I'm not doing that anymore. Well, anyway, I've got everything put together. There's a lot of different things that have come in this week, and I'm hoping that you've got some questions to make it even livelier. I see Margie, Therese, Carol, Barb, Chris, and probably some other people joining in. And we are recording. We're doing that automatically. Got our silly, what used to be called Scilla campanulata bluebells, or English bluebells. And then somebody decided that they weren't a Scilla, that they were a hyacinthoides. Looks like hyacinth. So campanulata hyacinth. No, they're a campanulata. Campanulata hyacinthoides. I got that right. Might even be the other way around. I just wish they wouldn't change these names to things that are always more complicated. There's always more letters involved, more variable or questionable pronunciations. But it's a pretty plant. Kind of a crazy plant. I don't know if you have it in your garden. It's good for color. A little bit later than the tulips. And good, it does well in shady woodland areas. But it is a little bit crazy in that it multiplies over time, and the bulbs get so thick they'll actually push themselves up out of the ground, and they can sometimes impede the growth of the plants next to them too. I'm kind of waiting to see what happens with our native heuchera here and the bluebells, whether they can handle it, and whether I need to just start digging bluebells out on a regular basis. Got a couple questions for people about cherry trees. We were talking about cherry trees last Friday, but why did it come up? Well, anyway, it came up that someone's cherry tree hadn't bloomed, and I said, oh, we just got an email about that too. Probably the ones that didn't bloom were probably the true weeping ones, the Kwanzan upright cherries and the pie cherries and sweet cherries are probably okay. It's not, they might not have bloomed as well as they usually bloom, but they probably bloomed. But some of them, so these are, this is one of the weeping cherries. These are the flower buds here. There is a leaf bud in there. I think it's the back one. The rest are flower buds. As you get down here, you'll see there's only one bud on the stalk, on the little stalk. That's leaf only in that newer part of the branch, the extension part of the branch. And what happens in the winter on some of these plants, weeping cherries, especially the double weeping cherries are one of them, is the flower buds aren't quite as hardy as the leaf buds. Maybe they open up a little bit earlier, start swelling a little bit earlier, but at any rate, sometimes the flower buds don't make it through the winter and they just dry up and fall off. But the leaf buds do. The plant is fine, it's alive, will come back and flower at another time. Forsythias do that. Sometimes you see some rhododendrons and azaleas lose their buds. I've seen some of the winter hazels do that, but it's not a long-term problem. They'll be back in a better year. If next year's a better year. Heck of a time to be a gardener when the weather is changing, climate is changing so much. I helped a friend prune this is a Tina crabapple. It's about as, well, it could get a little bit taller than that. We cut a bit off the top, but it's a miniature crabapple. But it had gotten quite bushy, and she said, I need some help figuring out what to do. Well, the first thing we had to figure out what to do, help her figure out what to do, is that underneath the tree, where she had not been looking, and a lot of times gardeners just don't, there was bittersweet, buckthorn, and an elm all growing in there, coming up through it, which increased its bushiness. And strangely enough, the bittersweet leaves, the older bittersweet leaves, not the tendril vining part that's just growing up, but the older leaves on the bittersweet do have a resemblance to the crabapple leaf. and so did the buckthorn leaves. So she can be forgiven for once they got together. But so we had to take those out, and because of the rocks, this is going to be hard to weed out. We got some talking about how to get that stuff out of there. But what you're looking at here is half of what we took off of the tree. The other half is piled on the other side. So we cut a lot out of there in order to give it a trunk, make it look like a little tree and not a cousin it, and to keep it out of the way of the mower coming through here. It's a good time to do crab apples after they finish blooming. Try to get them before they get there, push out a lot of new growth. And we've been watching real closely for the butterflies in our garden. We've seen yellow swallowtails. We've seen the giant giants. No, we've seen both forms of the yellow swallowtail, the ones that are black with some yellow on them and the ones that are all yellow. We've seen monarch, we've seen American lady. I just saw a red admiral for the first time, but we're not seeing much action on our plants that we grow for them. This is on Pearly Everlasting, and you can see some chews here on this leaf. So a caterpillar set up and started there, but we're not seeing the continuing knitting together of the leaves, which means to me, I think, that there's some predators in there taking these caterpillars as they develop. But that's life. We can set it up for everybody to have a place to live out there, but it doesn't mean that they're all going to make it in huge numbers. Oh, let's see. Barbara, you're asking about...
Yeah, she's asking, do we know of any good water plants that take the place of water hyacinth and water lettuce that will no longer be sold in Michigan? They made good cover for the pond fish.
We never needed anything other than a water lily. One water lily, an established water lily, just covered the pond, and it was a fairly good sized pond. So we always...
Yeah, we had to prune our water lily sometimes.
Yeah, and take leaves out of there even before they went bad. They just got to be too many leaves. But that's what I would do, is just put in another water lily or two. They do have
depending on the size of the pond, yeah.
They do start growing up in the spring, and they're not there right away, but they're there by the time it gets warm, and the fish need the cover. Otherwise, you can just...
Either that or add like you would in an aquarium, a tunnel or something that they could go into.
Yeah. We had rocks. We had little caves that they could...
Caves that the fish could go to if heron showed up.
Yep. And it
wouldn't necessarily keep it cooler, but it gave them shelter.
Well, it was a north facing. The caves were north facing.
So that's right. So it would have been cooler there. And
yeah. But I maybe someone else has something that they can recommend. Not too many. I mean, all of the water plants do create some shade. Even things like is it called water? No. I can't remember what the blue. The blue, shoot, it's an upright leaf, or pretty much upright leaf.
Blue pickerel.
Pickerel, thank you, pickerel weed, yes. I like that plant, and that was a good one. We also grow creeping forget-me-not along the edges of the pond. We always have. And the creeping forget-me-not just creeps right out over the water, just floats on the water and takes off from there. So it forms a mat on top of the water. And all of these things are not there immediately in the spring, but you don't really need them if you've got... If you have a pond situated in such a place that it's really going to heat up, maybe it's too small a pond and too much light, then you might need to leave an umbrella out for a bit to cover up, give them a little bit of shade until the plants get going.
Teresa says she hasn't seen any damage on her Pearly Everlasting either.
Yeah.
Also, do you recommend cutting the spent blooms from lilacs?
I don't. My history with cutting deadheading lilacs is my dad would hand me the pole pruner. They were always trying to keep me busy and say, go cut all the flowers off of that. And the flowers, we had to cut with a pole pruner. A, I was a kid, but B, they were lilacs that weren't pruned regularly to keep them short. But my dad felt that we needed something to do, and he also had been told by his friend, the gardener, that they were going to bloom better if you deadheaded them. everything that I've read and all that we've talked to at the people who work in the lilac collections, like Lilacia Park in Illinois, and what's the one, in upstate New York, and on Mackinac Island, they all say that you don't, except when the plant is young. So you've got a young lilac, you're just starting, maybe it's only got 4 blooming branches on it. Those can benefit from deadheading because the plant isn't making seed and goes more into leafy and new branch growth. But on an older lilac, it's not going to make any difference whether you deadhead it or not. A lot of lilacs are alternate year bloomers, like a lot of the apples and crab apples. So they bloom heavily one year and not so heavily the next year. And it could be that sometimes people are saying, well, boy, my lilac didn't bloom very well, I'm going to deadhead it. And they deadhead it in a year that it's not blooming well. Well, the next year was its alternate year that it was going to bloom well anyway, and they say, see, it bloomed better. But that's just the pattern of the plant to bloom off and on. I think the old saying that goes with that is that it's a good strawberry year when it's a good lilac year. That strawberries follow the same pattern, I guess. I'm not sure how that works.
Well, after all that, I was going to say something before Therese said, thank you for saving me so much work. I was going to say, why? They're big.
Yeah.
It would take a long time to deadhead some of the lilacs I've seen.
Yeah, let them do what they're going to do.
Yeah.
But no other questions? All this stuff going on?
Nothing right now.
I have a question.
Oh, Margaret.
Uh-huh.
Hi. I'm on my phone and I don't know how to do this. But anyway, about the lilac, I was just over my sister's and she has one that a couple of the old trunks are really high up and those are the ones that bloom. And over the years, I've been cutting some down and there's a lot of suckers coming up now, low.
Good.
And so I told her to take out two of the old trunks all the way to the bottom that are going way up over the fence, over the wood fence.
Right.
2 of them. Cut them down now. I mean,
Right.
like soon, whenever her guys come to do it.
Yes.
Is there a time that it's too late, or whenever they get there, it's going to be okay?
No, but the earlier in the season you do it, it's probably better because with those gone, the branches that you're going to keep in the long run become the dominant, tallest branches.
Right.
Grow better. Yep.
Okay, like the suckers, all the little suckers that have been coming up.
All the little suckers. Yeah. If there's a plethora of suckers, if there's a real thicket coming up, I thin them out. They'll thin themselves out eventually, but if there's just a zillion suckers coming up, thin them out. You know, only keep some.
Okay.
Yeah. Keep some nice ones.
All right. She wouldn't let me cut. If I saw, I would have cut the damn thing down myself, but she's like, no, you gotta come. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye.
All right, Steve.
Are you ready?
Go ahead, Steve.
Good evening and welcome to Free4All Friday, number 78. All gardeners are welcome. We like celebrating our problem solving, or even if we don't solve it, working on them. We're coming in from gardenatedz.org.
I'm Janet Makanovich.
I'm Stephen Nicola.
And we do love to garden, and probably the only thing we love as much as gardening is talking with other people about gardening, because there's so much information that people have to share, so much practical information. We've been writing and teaching about gardening we garden professionally for 40 years. We've been writing and teaching about gardening for going on 50 years now. Going on 40 years, about 35 years. And we've put up thousands of our articles on our website, the reason being that if they're up there, then we don't have to write the same thing again. We can tell people, here, read this, and we can go on and write new or do a video or a webinar about something new, which is what we've been doing the last few years. The Free4All Fridays are our vehicle to stay in touch with people on a regular basis, make sure that everyone knows that you can email us with questions, you can text us with questions, you can even call with questions if you want, because it's questions that generate more questions about what people are doing, how they're doing it. And this is on the ground kind of stuff. It's not theoretical. This is us actually planting things and tending things on our own. So we try to hand off all the information that comes to us back out to you. And Free4All Fridays is one way we do it. Tell your friends about it. because there's no reason that they can't come. They don't need to be on our official invite list. They can just go to gardenataz.org, click on Fridays, and the link is always there. This date is an older date that I captured when I took the picture, but the link is always right. They just click the link and they're part of the Free for All. And we start out with your questions, if there are any questions for anybody who's here.
Therese has a neighbor is asking me to split her rhubarb plant. I know earlier it would be better, but do you think it will be okay now? I was going to dig it up, the whole plant and split it.
It's definitely okay to
Yeah.
dig up. This time of year when you dig things up, there may be more wilting, and maybe the more need for careful watering afterwards. But we have moved things at all times of the year. It's more a matter of when you have the time to do it than when the plant wants to do it. We did divide rhubarb last year in early June, first week of June, for the Waterford Library. And as far as I know, everybody who took pieces home had a rhubarb. We certainly had a lusty rhubarb throughout the year, which we now dug up and sent home with someone else because they get so big so fast. Good luck digging the whole thing up. They can be beasts, real beasts. Isn't this Camassia pretty? This is the variety of Camassia called Blue Danube. It's a very, very pretty plant. Done blooming now. This was 2 weeks ago now. And now it's just stalks with seeds on them.
Marcia said it's the first time something bit off about 5 inches high her purple heucheras.
Well, a lot of things have liked to eat heucheras. I've seen rabbits eat them, I've seen groundhogs eat them, I've seen deer eat them. Why something wouldn't have eaten them before can be a matter of the plants were in a place that didn't feel safe to the animal while it was standing around eating. It could be that they weren't hungry enough to try something different and hadn't tried them before. We walked in a garden last night with a friend of our neighborhood gardening group, and she has all kinds of hostas planted and lives on 20 acres of wooded property, lots of deer, always lots of deer. And the deer are not touching her hostas on one side of the house. Why? Don't know, same hostas as on the other side of the house, but something about that other side of the house appeals to them a little bit more. Maybe they hear more noise through the walls of machinery or people moving around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Marcia said first time in 30, they've never touched them in 30 years.
Yeah.
Could have been new construction, moving them into your area more.
Yeah, and it can be a deer that developed a taste for something that other deer haven't. We've talked to people who said that they never bother my tulips. In most places, tulips are deer candy, and in some places they don't touch the tulips. I have read, and it follows right along with what our sheep herder friends have told us about sheep. The mother teaches the child, its offspring, what to eat by eating next to them. Eat this, not that. Our friend Burdette told us that she kept the lambs with the ewes, because if she didn't, when they let the lambs out into pasture by themselves, they would quite often get sick because they'd eat things that they shouldn't eat. But if they went out with their mothers, they ate what the mothers ate. So if you get a deer that's learned to eat heuchera, and you didn't have deer that ate heuchera before, now you have a deer that's moved in and likes to eat heuchera, it's going to teach its young to eat heuchera. There you go.
Nancy, first time this year, the deer discovered her hostas on the south side of her house.
Can you imagine the face on that deer? Well, okay, George, look at what's over here. And nobody's touched it yet. Yeah, be like coming to a fully restocked smorgasbord tray, right?
Or how come we didn't know about this place before? Hey, where's our scout?
Yeah. Shh, don't tell anybody. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I want to open this up to literally talk about the good, the bad, the questionable things that happen between neighbors that have to do with the gardens, because a couple of things happened this week talking with people that made me wonder. We have tree issues with our neighbors. Not there's no contention that's going on, but we have a lot of trees, And the trees shed branches. This one came off in a storm a week, at the beginning of the week, broke off. Poor tree, it drops branches regularly. And that tree is well within our property, but we have a lot of them that are on the edge. And when the limbs drop, they fall into other people's yards. When the whole tree falls down, sometimes it falls into other yards. We have, in fact, enlarged our yard over the years we've been here by finding out that the trees that we thought were the neighbors, turns out that they're ours. So when they fall, they go, no, that's your tree. So we've kind of located where our property lines are. But that can be point of contention for people. We know one young man who says that he is pretty sure that the tree that's on one side of his house and he thought was on the property line or maybe the other way, he says, I think it's my tree, because every time branches fall off of it, the neighbor picks them up and throws them into my yard. So the consensus there is, whose tree is who by where the branches get thrown in the long run. But another neighbor was talking about pruning branches, that the branches are hanging over, they're getting in the way, you can't even walk under them. It's the neighbor's tree, but I'm pruning the branches off of it. You are entirely within your legal rights to prune a tree or a bush that overhangs a property line, so long as you do not damage the tree or shrub. So use proper pruning practices. Clean your tools, if you're cutting a shrub, that you can cut the branch to the ground rather than leave it truncated and cut on a dry day and whatnot when it's wet. You're perfectly within your rights to do that, but you can't harm the plants, and that's what happens if someone can prove that you harmed the plants and the plants later became weak and fell over, then there can be liability issues. All of that happens in court, of course. But those are two things that happen. Trees happen. But for I don't know, maybe the sixth time in all these years, we've run into a situation where I stood and looked at the lawn at my friend's house, and I said, I thought that you said that you didn't use herbicides. No, she said, I don't use that stuff. I said, well, the dandelions in your front lawn are showing the definite sign of having been treated with herbicide. See how the flowering stems have curled up and there's distorted leaves. The leaves are still distorting. That's a herbicide damage symptom. And I said, these have been treated. If you didn't treat them, how did they get treated? Some of the times that this has happened before in our experience with people that we've known, in one case it was a company that came and sprayed the wrong lawn, read the addresses wrong, and applied something while people were gone, and that person didn't want to have it done, and that went to court. Sometimes it's overspray, it's near the property line. This was not. This was in the middle of the property. This particular person who owns this property and doesn't like herbicide use on her property, said, I think the neighbor that on that side over there that doesn't like my dandelions might have come over and sprayed them himself. So what do you think? What do you do when something like this happens? Looking for options.
Therese has a hand up.
Go ahead, Therese.
I guess I would get a Ring camera and record the neighbor doing it and then talk to them about it, because now you have proof who did it and proof if you need to take it further.
Now, I know I've seen Ring camera movies on a lot of things. People post them. I saw a cool one today of a goose trying to be abducted by an eagle. And the Ring camera caught it, including catching the young woman who happened to be breastfeeding her baby at the time, come running out the door with the baby still in arm and chase the eagle away. And it was all caught on the Ring camera. So those are activated, I gather. And this one must have been looking out a ways because it followed you could see the eagle trying to go across the driveway. But I guess if you have a Ring camera, there must be a way you can recapture the film from it to kind of look back through it.
You do have to have an account. You can, so we don't tend to keep our files, but you can just sign up, and she can just do it for 1 month. Sign up for the account where you can keep your videos, They'll save to your phone and you can look at them later.
Okay, so it's an account that you have, and you'd have to set it up ahead of time, knowing that what. So I would say
Correct.
the next dandelion season would be the time to make sure that she had something to watch and see if she can figure out who's doing this. Because even if it's someone who sprayed by accident, a company that sprayed by accident, you'd still have to figure out who that is.
Yes. Yeah. Good luck. That's terrible.
Another thing that happens, and I'm working my way through it right now, is I am the gardener, and I'm looking at a neighbor's yard. They're not gardeners. They maintain the property very nicely. They've mowed the lawn a lot, and they've re-landscaped the house a few years ago with new shrubs in the front. But they don't fuss with them, and they don't have a lot of flowers or anything. That's not what they do. And they're not neighbors that I talk to a lot. We talk to that neighbor, that neighbor, that neighbor. But this one, we wave, we say hello when we're at the end of the driveway shoveling snow together or whatever. But there's not a lot of socializing going on. But I'm looking at their new boxwoods, and even from where I am, looking at them from about 50 feet away, I think these boxwood are being eaten up by boxwood tree moth. And they are probably not going to know what's going on, and it's their new landscape, and they shouldn't lose these boxwood. So, do I go over and catch her when she's out at some point mowing the lawn and say, "I'd like to tell you about your boxwood," or do I just let it go because they don't really want to know about stuff anyway? What would you do? I'm seriously asking here. What would you do?
Nancy has a hand up.
Okay, Nancy, help us out.
So I have two situations. One, I saw people put boxwoods in, and it looked like they were being eaten by the box tree moth. I went to the person's home, because it was right across the street from where I was working, and rang their doorbell and basically spoke to their doorbell camera and told them about that, something to look for with their boxwoods. And I told them my name, and I said, I'm the gardener across the street, but I'm not selling you anything. I don't want anything from you. I just want to let you know about this issue with your boxwoods. I never heard anything from them. But it does look like their boxwoods are doing well.
So maybe you helped out here.
Maybe. So then the second situation was I was at another client's, and I actually was watching the guy planting the boxwoods, and we started talking about it, and I explained to him that I just finished removing the boxwood at this lady's house because it was completely dead from the box tree moss. And he sounded interested in everything, and I was just there a few days ago, and all his boxwoods are completely dead.
Oh.
So he didn't do anything about it.
Yeah, and it's everyone's own prerogative. Do they want to fuss with the plant or not fuss with the plant? If it's too much trouble, don't do it. But thank you. This is helpful. And I never thought about, because we don't have a camera and a camera on our doorbell or whatever, that you can literally leave a message. That you can leave a message on someone's doorbell. It goes to their phone, I gather, right?
Probably it goes to Corey's.
Yeah.
It wouldn't go to mine because I don't have an account. So if I don't catch it live, I don't see it.
Oh, okay. So if you're in the house, you can hear it while it's going on, but not necessarily get the recording. Okay.
Correct.
All right.
Okay.
I'll see if I can catch her.
Jean says the deer don't eat her blue hostas. They don't like the thicker leaf hostas. That is true.
They like the corrugated leaf hostas, like elegant,
Diane,
quite like that. Yeah.
Diane is asking, on dividing rhubarb, can we shovel cut a portion of the outside of the plant as an alternative to removing the entire plant?
Yep, and that's what I would do. I would just take my V, I'd find a place between a couple of the stalks coming up, and I'd just cut down hard, because the last time I dug one all the way up, it was an all-day job. Of course, I'd let it get really big. But yeah, taking a piece from the outside edge is totally kosher.
And there was a discussion about the Ring camera, Diane wondering, wouldn't it only capture what's in view from the doorbell? Jocelyn, she
Jocelyn?
knows who she is. Depends on where it's pointed. Blink is another camera system that is a bit cheaper, and it also depends on Wi-Fi. You may want to use a trail cam.
Oh, you're right. A trail cam. Of course, we have my sister's trail cam. I don't know how long it runs before you have to before it runs out of room on the disk. So you'd have to download it once in a while. But yeah, a trail cam would catch anything going on out there. Okay.
Susan agrees. Yes, go over and tell the Boxwood neighbor. I wouldn't even wait to see them outside, knock on the door. Therese says, I would tell them about the problem and the ways to avoid the moths, like ivory soap, that worked very well. And Barbara would, how does that always happen? I would let her know that about the tree moth, if they were recently planted, they may get reimbursed or at least treated. Sue S. I agree. Talk to the people and give them the option of whether to take action on the boxwood.
Thank you, guys. Okay.
All good answers.
Definitely good. Thank you very much. We'll let you know what happens. How about that? All of these high-tech things that we use in our low-tech gardens, crawling around out there, doing our gardening and using high-tech stuff to figure out the problems. I really like being able to talk to my neighbors. We've worked out a deal with the neighbors on one side, because twice now herbicide has drifted over and killed plants along the edge, and they've agreed to just not treat with herbicide, have their company not treat with herbicide. But we speak with them all the time. We speak about the kids, we speak about the cars, we speak about the weather, we speak about new neighbors. But some neighbors are just not so sociable as others are. These are the seed pods, of course, of money plant, Linaria. You know that's also called honesty, is it's another common name for Linaria annua. It's a biennial plant, but its name is Linaria annua. It's also called honesty because supposedly it won't grow in your garden unless you're an honest person. So you might want to try some of that and see if it takes for you.
Sure.
I am still weeding. I think I've told you before, this is the big season for weeding. I could be moving things around and dividing stuff and whatever, but I need to keep ahead on the weeds until midsummer. And then they start taking care of themselves a little bit more. I go by the old wise farmers saying, 1 year's weeds is 7 years seeds. In other words, you let it go to seed, you're going to have that plant coming back for years afterwards. So I weed with an eye to the long haul. Bernie asked this week about what this, she said, what is this? It's kind of sticky and I haven't seen this one before. This is a native relative of sweet woodruff called cleavers because it cleaves to you. It is quite sticky. It gets to be a well-grown cleavers might be 24 inches tall. Generally they lean on other things. But it's big enough that it can grab hold of your blue jeans and stick to it. It's not sticking as hard as Velcro, but it is hard to shake off when it gets hold of you. It is an annual. It is shallow rooted. So if you can get down to the base of it and grab where the several stems come together, you can generally just pull it out. But you don't want it to go to seed. This one is you might be able to see right there. It has a little white flower at the same time that sweet woodruff does. There's the white flower right there and right there. And that's seed forming. So you want to get it out of there before you get more seed. But it is an annual. It is a native. If you're in Michigan or much of the Northeast United States, it can find a way in from natural areas nearby. We tell people with weeds, and that's what Bonnie was doing in sending us that picture, get a positive ID of what the weed is. If you have the name of the weed, you're so much further ahead. This is growing in the grass at Sonia's house, our daughter. I said, oh, how pretty. Now, if you want to know what it is, I suspected what it is by the number of the petals and the way they're lined up, but take a picture that includes the leaf and the flower, if you can do that, and put that into one of your ID programs, or just put it into a Google search, image search, and it will tell you that this is a verbena, one of the creeping veronicas. Some of the veronicas are quite weedy. I would say that half of my son's front lawn is creeping veronica, and it can look quite pretty when it's all blooming blue, but it's not grass. It's not the same as grass at all. But there are veronicas. This one is one in our garden. This is one of the creeping veronicas species that is not a weed. They sell it for rock gardens, but it can creep into the lawn and take off from there. So whether something is a weed is very much a situational thing. If it's growing where you don't want it, it's a weed. If you want it out, you need to know what it is, whether it's a true weed or whether it's something that's become weedy for you. You need to know what it is so that you can deal with it. I'm looking for whether it's annual or perennial, and whether it's a winter annual or a warm season annual if it's an annual. The winter annuals, like this that we wrote about in what's coming up 225, is in early spring issues, and one of the articles in it is about winter weeds. And you find this by going onto our site. You can type in winter weed or the name of your weed. It'll come up with articles that you can click on and go to there. If you click on to read all about it, this one is contained on the website. And you'll find it using the example of bittercress. There are a couple of different kinds of bittercress: hairy bittercress, late bittercress, great bittercress. But they're all mustard family plants. They all have this similar kind of pretty. I like the look of the basal rosette. It's very organized spiral of leaves. But they get a little white flower, and by about now they're going to seed, and they spit the seed out. You definitely don't want to let them go for too long, because a couple of them can become a big mat in almost no time at all. And the seeds do live in the soil for a while, so you'll be stuck with them for a while. Now, I'm still weeding those out in places in our garden. They're around. They who knows whether they were in here already or they came in on our feet, but they're here. And where I've missed them and I'm weeding them out now, I make a motion that I can't show you in pictures. I'm sure I can't show you. I make a motion to cup the plant toward me as I gather the stems to pull it, so that I can push the seeds out to wherever I am, because generally I'm crawling on the grass or I'm on the pavement or something just outside the bed. I'd rather direct any popping of seeds out toward me and not elsewhere in the bed. If I can keep it that way, I'm keeping a few more weeds out of the bed and keeping the numbers down. But the winter weeds like bittercress and chickweed and some other ones, many of the violets, they germinate in the fall, when the weather is cool but not frozen, and they get themselves set up, ready to grow and start growing very quickly, very early in the year, even in thaws in January and February, so that they're ready to bloom by the time you get out there. And the winter weeds, it's really important to put that on your list, that in the fall, I need to go out and weed well in the fall, where I know I have this problem. And if you don't let it go to seed, you're often better off. You're always going to be better off. If it's perennial, I tell people mark the places, either mentally or with a picture or the flag. Mark the places where you dug or killed the perennials, because if a perennial gets past you and gets into the garden, chances are you didn't quite get all of whatever caused it to be there, roots, seeds, or whatever, and you're going to want to watch for it. So I watch for them. One of the perennial weeds that I dislike a lot, anyone who has a shady garden has probably seen this, is called enchanter's nightshade. It's little spikes with a little rounded oval burrs, very sticky, get all over your socks, get all over your short-haired dogs. Enchanter's nightshade blooms in June and makes seed that ripens by the end of summer and gets stuck on you. I try to pull that before it blooms. I definitely want to get it out before it blooms, just so that I don't have so many burrs to deal with. But I want to pay attention to what the roots look like. This is at the end of the year. I think I took this picture in September. And I took this plant out whole. These are maybe the reason that it's called enchanter's nightshade. These are runners that are going to be in a plant next year that disassociate themselves from the main stem. As this plant dies back for the winter, this piece separates itself from that stem. So I end up with several runners going out from where the original plant was, but the original plant is gone. Knowing that they like to grow in loose duff in the garden, like leaves, pine needles, and those things are there. The roots can be quite shallow. So I mark that I know I have a problem of it back here where our holly bush, there's a shrub going in here, Steve, I need to get that out of there. Where our holly bush ends and the garden begins, I know I have a problem back there with the enchanter's nightshade. It's even worse behind the holly going into the neighbors' yards. So I watched that area, and I was over there with Steve. We were looking at a little hemlock that's over here to the right, and standing here, knowing that it's there, I saw something that I wouldn't see otherwise. I saw that. See it right there? That's the leaf of an enchanter's nightshade. You've dealt with it. You've learned to know what they look like. I said, okay, that has to come out. I want to get it before it goes to seed. I want to get it when it's little if I possibly can. So I reach in, go deep down, loosen around it, and in our garden, because of all of the pine needles and leaves we put on there, there's a lot of duff. You can literally just kind of shake the surface of the soil. And I pull up, and while I'm doing that, right behind it is a cleavers. See it back there? Just got started. And when I pull it up, I'm loosened so that I can take out, here's the whole piece that grew off of last year's piece. So I know I've got the whole thing. Another weed that came up this week, Marcia sent these pictures. She said, I've had a problem with this weed the last few years in one place in my garden, and I don't know what it is. This is false helleborine. We've talked about it before, but it's worth talking about again. It's a terrestrial orchid. Terrestrial means it grows in the ground. Many of the orchids grow up in the crotches of trees and just grow on accumulated leaf litter. This is one that grows in the ground. It's European. People brought it to the United States on purpose as well as by accident. And it is terribly weedy when it gets established. It is going to flower, with an orchid flower because it is an orchid family plant. That's what the flowers look like. This is what the plant looks like as it gets a little bit bigger. I'm not sure what was eating the leaves on it. I wish there was something very deadly, but it's not. This one is developing a second stem. It's gotten to be a big enough plant. And one of the problems with the terrestrial, with the false helleborine, is that it can handle a lot of shade. It can not only come up and dominate in your shade garden, but it can grow up and through ground covers that would be too dense, that are so dense that they would prevent other things from getting started. So you do have to watch for the places where you had it before. It's going to be trying to come up in the same place. The root system is ways down. So here's what had come up above ground. About 4 inches down was the root mass. They're fleshy roots in quite a bundle. I put a fork in next to where the plant's coming up, put the fork in deep and loosen the whole area, and insert my hand into the soil, looking to feel for that root mass. I'd like to get it all out without breaking any pieces, because if I break a piece and leave it in there, that's what comes back. This is a younger one, or a runner. This is an older plant, and you might be able to see that there's a second level of roots. A level of roots off of the stem, and now as it's gotten older, it's developed a second level of roots which are reaching out further and are running and coming up. If you look at this patch, this is growing in a terribly neglected part of a community park. But here's the mother plant, and here is where it's coming up from runners all around. And that's what it does, and comes up thicker. This one has quite a deep root and has long runners. What I want to see when I'm working with perennial weeds like this is that I understand that it's a long-term process. I am not going to get rid of a perennial weed in 1 year's time. No matter what perennial weed it is, I have to assume that it's a longer haul project than that. So I'm looking over the years from, here's 2024, in my yard, one of the helleborines that I dug up. Here's 2026. You see it has less root. It's a smaller plant, no second level. I am, over the years, getting smaller plants with smaller root systems and less running. I'm probably not ever going to be rid of it because it's elsewhere in the neighborhood. I've seen it in all kinds of gardens nearby me. And the seed that the orchid family makes is dust-like and floats. So however it got here in the first place, it's going to get back, but I'm watching for it, knowing that it's coming up about now. I tell people that the root system looks like a star-nosed mole's lips. And you got to look at the star-nosed mole's pictures to see that. I know they're there even later in the year. I was digging, since I know where they are. I mean, I know where 5 of them came up in this one place, and I'm going back and looking for them. In the fall, this was in September, I was digging out a sow thistle, and I knew that in that area there were some false helleborine that had snapped when I pulled them out. So I reached down and felt for and was able to take this one out. See, it's just got a little bud on it, ready for next year. It hadn't even come up yet, but I'm ahead of next year because I'm aiming for the places where I've seen them before. False helleborine. Any questions come up while we were talking there?
Well, Nancy made a comment. She guesses she must be really honest because she has a ton of the money plant.
Money plant, honesty.
Yeah. How to tell? Also, she asked how to tell the difference if it is the weed or the purchased Veronica growth habit.
Yeah, there is no difference. There's at least one purchased Veronica that is the weed that grows in the grass. It's simply a variety that was chosen for larger flowers. So all you would know is it had larger flowers, and you'd have to have the weed next to you to compare it. It's better to say, do I want it or not? Is it in a place where I want it? And just don't even worry if it's a weed or a desirable plant. Take it out if it's not where you're growing it. But if you get a good picture of the flower and the leaf, you can generally get an ID that'll tell you what you're growing or trying not to grow.
Therese says sinister plant the enchanter's nightshade.
Yes, it is sinister.
Barb asks, what are our thoughts about using preen to prevent those weedy seeds? In my personal opinion, any use of herbicide is one of the last resorts.
Yeah, for safety, it is a lot.
I would rather look into many more options.
As I've told you before, my Parkinson's is probably because I've crawled on grasses treated with 2,4-D, the herbicide broadleaf weed killer, for 40 years. I didn't know that was one of the effects, but my neurologist tells me that, and so we've always avoided using herbicide, and now I avoid them more because maybe more exposure would make this worse. But herbicides have their place, and if you were here for our webinar with Neil DeBoll, you know that in dealing with prairie plantings and acreage, he not only uses herbicides, but has learned which ones are most toxic, which ones are easiest to handle, which ones deal with which plant. So use them. Preen is a herbicide. Sometimes people don't think that because it's advertised as stops weeds. It doesn't stop weeds, it kills them as they germinate. It works by granules sit on the soil surface, and when the soil surface gets moist, some of the granules dissolve. There's a weak solution of herbicide that goes through the soil. The new seeds, as they are germinating, imbibe it, and it kills them. It generally, preen, generally does not hurt established plants in the bed because their roots are deeper and because it's a low level dosage that shouldn't hurt it. But that's not always the case. It does build up in the soil. We know that. We've talked to a lot of professional gardeners at botanical gardens and public gardens. If you use preen regularly, all of the time, and it's in a perennial garden where you're digging out perennial plants and dividing and moving things around, adding stuff all the time, you're mixing the preen deeper into the soil. It's going to affect more plants. And it does.
Also, the preen when it first, like you said, it forms a layer. As soon as you dig in it, it breaks the layer up.
Yeah, right. You have places where things can come through. So we tell people if you're going to use preen, use it on a new bed where you know that you've got annual weeds there. Maybe bittercress was all over in the lawn, or chickweed was all over in the lawn, or crabgrass was all over in that area. Use your preen to give you a jump start on your first year or two, but don't keep using it. If your weeding procedure, whether that's herbicide or pulling weeds by hand, doesn't work well enough to start getting the jump on these weeds, then your preen is just going to start causing you problems rather than helping you out. Cornell, Andy Smerzak is one of the authors of Weeds of the Northeast, and a wonderful guy. He has had, I'm not sure if it's still there, weed patches where they grew different weeds in order to try different things on them. And his studies showed that the best weed prevention was to weed the bed well in the spring and put a good mulch on it, as in good mulch, a 1 to 2 inch layer of mulch. That was better than landscape fabric and better than preen. And the criteria that they looked at were time involved, number of weeds that survived, and the expense. So we stick with weeding by hand.
Suzanne is asking, have you tried using the 30% vinegar concentrate? It was mentioned to me and it seems very effective.
Vinegar is a burn down weed herbicide. You can also buy, one of Sonia's friends, another PhD friend, called her one day and she said, I think I just spent $30 on vinegar when I look at the dry. And yes, there are there are herbicides that are burned down. You apply them to the leaf. They're based on vinegar. They might have potassium, fatty acids in it as a sticker. But what it does is it burns the cuticle off the leaf and kills the leaf. That's doing the same thing as if you plucked the top off the leaf. If the root is still there, the plant still has energy to leaf back out again. But if you pluck off a leaf often enough, you can starve the plant out. You can get it to exhaust its reserves. So plucking by hand, vinegar by hand, or what I do when I'm pouring boiling water between my flagstones on the patio, that's doing all the same thing. You're killing by starving the root out by taking all of the photosynthetic leaf surface off. This is a monarch butterfly caterpillar that's just hatched out. You can see he's chewed his way out of his egg. They're little tiny guys. I think
they are very vulnerable right now.
I am sorry to say that I think this one got eaten by a spider because overnight he disappeared, and I should have had him in a cage. I should have had him in a net. Life in the fast lane. Serious trouble in the spring. Arrested growth. Nancy sent me a picture of her oak tree. We'd taken a girdling root off from the outside edge of this tree a year ago, a little over a year ago, and it did quite well last year. Had a good growth rate, better than the trees around it. She was feeling quite good, but she said this year it leafed out really late and it's kind of just sitting there now. Those leaves are not expanding, they're not coming out. That's a sign of girdling roots or girdled trunk. If there's a string left around the trunk, the tree will absorb water through the roots and through the wood, the center of the trunk and out the branches. The leaves can expand. Now they're photosynthesizing, and that photosynthetic operation creates sugars, which the leaf turns into starch and sends back to the roots through the cambium, the layer just underneath the bark. If the cambium is blocked by a string, a girdling root, something too tight that's left on it, yellow ribbons, then the roots begin to die and the process of leafing out stops. I told Nancy, if this tree does not resume leafing out this week, write it off. Start thinking about another tree, because that's too clearly a sign that this tree, which was put in big, must have within the root ball where you couldn't get to it and we couldn't get to it, roots twisted around and girdling each other. So watch around and see for yourself. what's arrested, and understand that this time of year, nothing should slow down. This is 1 week, a week later. Everything is growing gangbusters in the spring, taking advantage of the water, of the nutrients that were released as things broke down over the late fall and early spring. Things are growing at just, this is our perennial garden. Look at this guy right here. That's a gas plant. This was a week ago. And there's now. And there's other things that have changed here. The dianthus are all blooming. The scabious is coming to bloom. The obedient plant is filling out. The turtlehead is twice as high. There should be no cessation of growth in the spring. If there is, treat it as a signal that something is wrong. So sometimes the growth is extending itself upward. So these plants were all basal leaves, and now the flowering stalks are coming up. Sometimes it's a greater bloom a week ago and then now. But that's what should be going on. I should have cut this shrub down in the spring. When it first started to leaf out a month ago, I looked and I said, oh, you have branches that are not leafing out, and you have other branches that are leafing out with just a little bit here and there on the edges. Not good, not good. I should have cut all those branches all the way down right away. Now, I'm kind of too late. Well, I'm not too late, but I've made myself more work. Some of the branches, especially those lower to the ground, this is an indication that this dieback of this sweet shrub, Calycanthus, probably has something to do with how cold it got, how early last December, because branches that were nearer the ground or underneath the overhang of the fir next to them didn't die back as far and are leafing out all the way to the tips. Others, though, are another matter. And now lots of new growth is coming up, and this is why I should have cut it down earlier. I should have just said, you're not doing well, I'll cut all these stems down. Now I have to try to cut those stems that are not doing well out without disturbing the new growth. I told Steve I'm probably going to let them all just grow this year, and the very end of next winter, I'll cut the whole thing down, new branches, old branches, and let them come back up again. But this is...
I will wait to the end of winter so the birds have a perching place.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But this is happening to spirea this year, to primus. I've seen Rosa Sharon in trouble like this. The butterfly bush died back further and waited quite a long time to come up. There was something about this winter, and nobody's going to be able to tell you for sure what it is, but my money is on the early cold. It's affected a lot of plants.
Therese says tomorrow is Blue Heron Headwaters Native Plant Sale at Neiman's Family Market at White Lake Road and Dixie in Clarkston from 10 to 3.
White Lake and Dixie Native Plant Sale tomorrow, 10 to 3. Good. Maybe I can go and grab a few more cardinal flowers.
Diane says if you try the vinegar, she tried it. It can be expensive, and careful that you don't breathe it in because it is a high concentrate.
Yeah, it sure is, and if it's one that you bought prepared, it's got a sticker spreader in it that makes it stick. Hard to get rid of that stuff. What's easiest on us? The longer that I live and the more that we garden, the more that I want to take people out of the loop of having to keep things small. So easiest for us is give it room to grow as big as it needs to grow. And sometimes that means giving it time too. This is our bottlebrush buckeye. We went well out of our way back when you couldn't find bottlebrush buckeye at most nurseries.
When we first tried, people said, "Hey, what?"
So I brought a piece with us, and we put it in our shaded garden back here. It's bottlebrush buckeye. Now keep your eye on this path into our backyard garden. Do you see the wood here? Whoops. Is here. So the bottlebrush buckeye has eaten the path. There's two things going on. One is that it's overhung by this pine, and these branches have gotten lower due to some damage in the wintertime, some ice damage. Literally plastered those on the ground, and that disturbed the rigidity of the branch, so they're leaning lower than they should. But I don't want to take those off because that pine has so few branches, and because that branch is part of our screen between us on this side over here and the neighbors over there. So I said, well, I'm not going to take that off, and that's forcing our bottle brush buckeye, which would be 15 feet tall if it could be. It's saying, I'm going to move sideways because there's more light over that way. It's warmer, the soil's warmer, that's my indication to go that way. So we're letting it go because we want to have that there. I can change the paths later. But they take a lot of room, and why not let them take room? Path is gone. The gas plant that I pointed out to you earlier, gas plant is a long-lived plant. It's like peonies. It's going to be there for 50 years. But it took it 5 years to go from 2 stems to 8. Now it'll start growing more quickly because it's a geometric progression, kind of like going 2 times 2 and then 4 times 4 and then 16 times 16. But we had to let it have the room, or it wasn't going to grow to that size. So if you can learn the potential size of your plant and give it room, do that. Make it easy on yourself.
Teresa's asking, have you heard of any problems with germinating seeds in a hothouse this year? I have a friend who starts flowers every year, but this year he lost most of them in a constant 60-degree Fahrenheit environment. Thoughts?
It could be that it doesn't so much have to do with the temperature, in that maybe his greenhouse has become a receptacle, there's a sink there of the fungus spores called damping off. In most greenhouses, they sterilize their benches on a regular basis because the spores from the damping off fungus, which is a fungus that infects the stem right at ground level, it can be kept at bay or a little less. You won't see as much of it if they run fans to keep the air circulation real good, if they fill the planting medium all the way to the top so that there's no place for moisture to settle in there. But still, damping off can build up. So he might have lost them to damping off, and he might need to be cleaning his shelves and benches more. And bleach and water is what most people use.
Margie has a hand up.
Oh, Margie, go ahead.
Hi. You know that plant where you didn't cut it down in time?
Yes.
And the stalks are coming up? Why wouldn't you just cut it to where it's growing already and deal with it next year so that the new growth would look pretty?
It's totally a matter of time involved and complexity involved for me. I could cut it off to the top if I got out there right away, because the stuff that's growing is coming from the roots and growing up among the branches that are there. So I could just cut right above the new growth and let the new growth more quickly cover the old stuff. But then I'm going to have to cut again to cut those stems back all the way in order to not have a totally cluttered base next year. So I look at it on the whole spectrum. I want to cut it just once, and I want to cut it when I can do it indiscriminately, where I don't have to get my hand in and cut between new stems and old stems, and where I don't have to cut once and cut again. And it's just a personal choice. Your solution is as good as mine is, and it's just a choice whether you want to do it that way.
Okay, because you could just cut it next year.
Yeah,
They're all down, and then just cut it once.
that's right. I'll just once before it starts growing, I'll just cut the whole thing down to ground level, and then I've only got the new stems, the good stems.
Gotcha. Okay.
Ms. Anderson has a very large bed that she wants to, I'm assuming, mostly tear out and replace old perennials with shrubs and evergreens. Should I get started now or wait until fall to replant?
I like fall for getting beds ready, but if I've got the time now, I'm smothering a bed or getting ready to smother a bed in the backyard. I've got it turned up so that it'll be ready for me to plant in the fall. But there's no reason you can't do it now. We certainly planted new beds for clients all through our years of doing this. And is there any real drawback to doing it now? It's hotter.
Unless she's concerned about weeds and the perennials that they'll keep coming back, running perennials or ground covers. There's no reason why not to do it as long as you could assure that the plants you're putting in get watered.
Right, because you want to get them established well. When we get a bed ready, maybe we have to back up to getting a bed ready. When we get a bed ready, we either smother it like I'm doing the new bed in the backyard. And when I smother, I'm going to leave the smothering cover on to kill those plants that are underneath the cover. Leave that cover on for a year. If it was good lawn without other types of plants in it, I might be able to kill it in one summer's time. Smother it by May, plant in September. But most of the time I'm smothering mixed grass with dandelions and clover and thistle and all kinds of other things coming up in it. And I would much rather know that it's dead. If it's a small enough bed, I dig through the whole bed. Every square foot I take all the roots out so that I know I'm planting into a clean bed. And we can make a very clean bed that way.
Yep.
But that's, again, as with talking with Margie about what to do with cutting that shrub back, it's a personal choice. If you don't mind doing the work now, go ahead, do the work now. If you can find the plants more easily this time of year than in the fall, another reason why you might want to do it. But no reason that you can't.
Yep. Margie said, you used to say, I think, do it in the fall because next spring you'll be older. But yeah, you're younger right now in this spring.
That's right. Do it now while you're thinking of it, because whenever it is you next think about it, you're going to be older, and if it's in next spring, you're going to be in worse shape than in the fall. Yes.
Teresa's curious. They are going to replace a beloved tree, aren't they all? Of course. Would the new replacement do well if we just give the soil a year of rest between planting new and removal of old? There's still a lot of microorganisms and things from an active root system that are still in the soil that might not be there in a year. I don't know.
I don't think you need to give the soil a rest.
No.
And a year wouldn't do a lot anyway. But if you're taking out an established tree and putting in a new tree, you have to think about the fact that the established tree's roots and most of its influence on the soil are way out where the roots are most actively growing. The trunk is, of course, a problem with shading and blocking water running down someplace. But more problem is further out, and that's not going to be there once you take the old tree out. You just don't have a problem.
Yep.
Yeah, so I don't think you want to leave it to rest.
Give the tree as much time as it can so you could enjoy it for as long as you can.
The new tree you're talking about, Steve?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. 5-minute warning.
Okay, we got a picture from Ruth that reminded me to tell you, never underestimate what a plant can do. I would not have thought that these arborvitaes, they are the narrow columnaris, but I would have thought they would have gone all bare in between those two houses. Maybe it's because it's light colored siding and it's reflecting light in there, but never underestimate a plant. Peonies can grow in a container, yes. Let's see, was it Ruth or Sue who asked that? Yes, you can put them in a container. They are going to outgrow the container. You're going to have to take them out, divide them, and put it back in the container from time to time.
Nothing new in chat.
I think I will save this for next time. I think I answered Michelle already. She wondered about keeping a junipers that are seeded themselves and volunteered in her yard when she's got serviceberry. This is a linden. Lindens have lots of pests. Caterpillars, loopers, linden looper probably has been eating the leaf already. These are galls. They're little mites that are laid in the leaf and are irritating the leaf so that the leaf makes this little projection. We're not going to kill the tree. It's a pesty tree, but not a tree that shares its pests with other things. The junipers, the Virginia junipers, share their rust with crabapples, hawthorns, and other members of the rose family. This is rust, the discoloration on the fruit of this hawthorn or on this hawthorn branch. you'd see the same kind of thing on a serviceberry branch where you'd get discolorations and kind of tumor-like growths on the branches and discoloration on the leaves. Flip the leaf over on the other side and you'll see rusty pustules on it. And that comes from, on the juniper, the rust, this particular rust fungus spends the winter on junipers. That's a rusting, that's a body that's formed from the spores that got on the juniper. That's going to sit there all winter. And it does this to the juniper, just like it does to the branch of a serviceberry. It's infected the branch and it's causing it to swell up and die back. So you see these kinds of lesions. Then as spring comes, those resting bodies of the fungus spores enlarge into these weird alien-looking creatures and sporulate. They spread their spores over. So I told Michelle already, if you have something that shares its disease with something else, and the volunteers come in, and you have a desirable plant that you want, definitely take the volunteer out. You don't need to set up having those things spread back and forth. I know there's specs on this one.
Quick question from Suzanne. Her clethra hedge is spreading by root runners, she guesses, but yes, it is.
Yes.
Should I be removing the offsprings? It depends on how big you want the hedge to be.
That's right. If it's growing where it really likes to grow, like along the edge of a stream, it becomes a whole hedge all by itself.
And sometimes that plant might be moving to where it likes it better, and you'll find out that those young ones are actually growing better not only because they're young, but they're in better conditions than the original.
Yeah, but take them out and see what happens. I know there's specks on here. I actually thought that it was a wonderful sunset, much bluer in between the...
yeah, it didn't. It's hard to do.
But those specks were insects. We didn't get them in Michigan. We got them in Ontario. Ontario has outlawed the use of Roundup in residential properties. Is there a connection?
And some other stuff.
If you find people who are growing good plants, support them. We've told you about North Branch Nursery in Pemberville, Ohio. We are so pleased with the plants that are there. And we should have remembered to tell you about Michigan beekeepers. You've got Michigan beekeepers buying in. These are Seven Sun shrubs. We bought them from them. These came into them bare root. They potted them just recently. They have not outgrown the pot yet. They have a beautiful root system, a great growth rate. We want to support those people. So watch for those sales of people who understand about compromised roots and support those plants.
Go ahead. Oh, mulch leads right into Diane's question.
Okay. Some people say you need to mulch, or they've heard about close planting and using living mulch. I do both. This is the naturalized part of our garden, and I am mulching in some places where I've decided that I have too many seedlings coming up, so I've weeded and I put a mulch down. But in this area where the swamp milkweeds and a number of other plants are, I'm not going to mulch. I'm just going to take out the worst weeds and let those things that are there spread. In that area, we have a lot of the annual native prairie plant called Euphorbia marginata, or snow in summer, which is attractive later in the year. I want to let that come up. I want to let the seedlings of purple coneflower and swamp milkweed come up, so I don't want a heavy mulch on it. And if you grow plants close enough to each other, they do suppress weeds, but they don't keep them all out, and it becomes hard. I have to crawl around in there to get to it. Now I very slowly take down last year's stems, so I've taken down some more of the stems of the milkweed. I don't because I leave them out because we watch birds grab these shreds. They're quite strong. You just rip down that and they fly away with them and use them to weave their nests. At the Sakura native plant garden where we had a workshop a week ago, we were talking to the gardener there who said, I've been leaving the stems up and now I'm looking and realizing that yes, those hollow stems have all been plugged by the insects who laid their eggs in there, like many of the bumblebee species. So the plant will cover that over, given time. Leave them there. But where you've got, so you can see there's not new mulch put down, because in there I've got Euphorbia marginata coming up. I left an area, you can't see it from here, and I'm leaving this area where the swamp milkweed is. It's your personal choice what you want to use.
Yeah.
Lots and lots and lots of the Amsonia. Blue Star was coming up, and I said, I really don't want to lose this whole area to Blue Star, so I'm mulching it for a bit. And we've got perennial lupin, our native perennial lupin. We're so pleased that it's spreading itself around, even though I have bitter cress coming up in places around it. I also have baby lupins coming up, so I don't want to put heavy mulch on. I want to bite the bullet and do my weeding. It's interesting. I'm watching the difference between just 50 feet from each other. I'm watching the biennial lupins we call Uncle Axel's lupin. These are some of them. And there are aphids on some of those. You see them there? And there's the ant tending the aphids. But no aphids on our perennial lupin. Is it a condition of the soil? Is it something? It'd be interesting to watch this over time. And I think I see more pollinators on our native lupin.
Yes,
I'd have to actually study.
I can confirm that.
Okay.
I do.
And I use Steve's pictures. Steve will show me the pictures he's been out taking. I'll say, oh, yes, it's pretty, our perennial lupin. That's one of our seedlings beginning to bloom. I said, and there's a pokeweed behind it. I know, mark it on my list. Pokeweed coming up in that area. Get that out of there. Look at those lupins. They were here. I let the seedlings come up throughout Tracy's garden, the new garden that's here. And you can see that over the years, Uncle Axel, and then we selected more for the blues and purples to get very few pinks coming up.
Death to the pinks before they go to seed.
Yeah. So we look at them and we're going to deadhead things like this one that have pink in it, and leave the ones that have blue. I like the bicolor blue and white, and I like the dark purples. And that way we get more of the ones that we want to have.
Diane says her urban forester recommended a 2 to 4 inch layer of compost on top of the soil where the new tree will go a year in advance, or at least a season or two if possible. He called it the magic recipe. Our use of compost kind of would indicate that too if you left it in the soil.
Sure, organic matter is going to
Yep, just got to watch out for the weeds.
So it's going to stimulate the production of other microorganisms, small animals, small plants. That's what you want to have in there. We have some workshops coming up, and they're about design, and we really want to have more people who ask about design but say they can't do it. Show up out here for our workshops. We've placed these, they're ready to go. We'll be doing fact gathering, starting a design from the ground up on June 8th at 6 p.m. It's in Troy, Michigan. And then we're going to place plants. We'll have real plants to move around and place, and see how they work out for the plan on June 13th. And we can come back to that same place and plant on June 15th. We can take 6 people for each workshop. You have to email, text, or call us to reserve a spot. If you want the new garden that we're doing from the ground up is a wet area. So if you've got something like our wet area, you might want to talk about what plants go there and how to make them look good together. You might also, since we're starting from the ground up, wonder what the heck golf has to do with a landscape design. It has a lot to do with it. You might also wonder about nice combinations. How do you make these nice combinations where things look good? That's what we're asking you to come out and do with us, so we can understand with your own hands and your own eyes what we're doing. Sorry, I misspelled and here. So June 8th, June 13th, and 15th, you find that information just on that or any of the things we're doing. Go to Garden A to Z. On the homepage, one of our main menus is webinars and workshops. Go to that page, and the easiest way, you could scroll through the whole calendar, but you can just click the calendar. It'll take you down to a calendar that says in June, these are our dates. If you click on that date, it will tell you where, what's going on and how to register. And this will tell you what's going on and how to register. We'll give you the address once you register. We're not going to put that address right out on the website. We have to try to keep from having too many people at some of these places. So I hope to see some of you out June 8th, June 13th, and June 15th in Troy, Michigan, and watch our calendar for other kinds of things going on.
Susan said, haven't we heard about the larger survival rate of the Eastern monarchs in Mexico this past winter?
Yes, we heard that from Brenda. Brenda, I forgot. Brenda Sattler. Brenda Sattler, who wrote the books on the raising butterflies in the garden, and goes every year. It's been over 20 years. She goes every year down to Mexico to check it out. Yes, she confirmed over the winter that the numbers were definitely higher. Doesn't mean they'll make it up here, but it's good that they're getting a better winter.
Suzanne said her connection broke when we were talking about the clethra hedge. Could we
Yes.
repeat it? That they were
Yeah.
going from the roots. Yes, clethra do.
Yeah.
It just depends on how big you want it to go.
That's right. You don't have to take them out, but if it's becoming too big, take them out.
And the runners may be going to where the plant might grow better.
Right. If you leave some in and you find that they are more vigorous growing or maybe better blooming, the plant may be telling you it needs to be over to the right or out in more sun. So you can kind of follow that. But they are running plants. They're going to do that with extra energy, even if they're in a good place.
And Margie has a hand up.
Hey, Margie. Like Steve says, it's becoming a fight between the golden time and the curly chives. See what happens out there.
Yep. Let them go. No.
Oh, hoping for Margie.
There. Okay, finally. I went to a talk about vermiculture.
Permaculture, yes,
Yeah. What do you could talk about this another day, but is it worth it to go buy this bag of worm poop and to put down? Because he was, saying how good it is for the plants. I know it's nitrogen.
Yeah. It's an organic fertilizer, just like poultry manure or cow manure or whatever.
Okay, nothing more special than that.
I don't believe it's any more special than that.
Okay, all right. Oh, and also I want to apologize about just in Portland last week because my daughter is going and it sounds like it's going to be really nice. There's a flea market on Sunday and then there's some bookstore there that she wants to go to. So Portland is cool. But then she's gonna go to the
Portland's
ocean. Oregon, yeah, I said last
And
week.
Powell Bookstore there is
Yeah,
awesome.
I think that's where she's going. Yeah,
Oh,
she
you
brought it
kidding.
up yesterday.
It's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
I knew I heard it from somewhere. Okay. All
Yeah.
right, have a good week.
Okay.
Barbara was asking, was that white flower candy tuft? No, that was our
That's our cranberry
Cranberry.
kale. It's a member of the mustard family. Very
all right, everybody. Thank you for being here tonight.
Yep, that'll be
That's
it.
all for this week's Free for All Friday.
The next time we do a Free-for-All Friday is June 12th. We're skipping a week because our subscribers are joining us next Saturday, June 6th, for the weekend walkabout number 188, which is growing and using clematis. If you're not a subscriber, but you'd like to subscribe, you can subscribe to just one webinar. Let us know, and we can add you to the list and work out with you how to get the fee in for that. We appreciate your support.
Thank you all.
See you.
Ta-ta.
Yeah.
Ta-ta for now.
Tell a friend about this. See you later.